I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy anymore. I was coming into the last year, so I would have had to renew in May, I think. I was
Mm.
released in February, if I remember correctly. And I a year before that, I had met with Vince in London. We were at the O2 or something. I knocked on his door and I just told him, I said I felt like I don't feel like I'm a commodity to you. I don't think I'm valuable to you as I am right now. Right now, I'm just a guy in tights and a good wrestler on the show, but you have a company full of great wrestlers. Everybody in this company is a great wrestler. Um, and so that doesn't separate me that, and I'm not a commodity to you in that way. And I'm not, and most of all, I'm not happy. And so he said, well, what can we do to use you better? And I said, I'll show you. So I spent a year trying to readjust myself and what I felt like my value was to them. And in my opinion, it's my community. When I was coming through the CWC, I was this Filipino American, Asian American star, and nobody had represented Filipinos before. Nobody had represented Asian Americans before necessarily, and that's a huge demographic, huge
Yeah.
demographic. And Filipinos specifically are a very passionate fan base, and all we have is Pacquiao. You know, they never really put Batista in that position, and a lot of us who are Filipino or Asian American, we hoped that guys like him would be pushed in that direction. They weren't. So it worked so well going to CWC, but when I got to Raw, they separated me from that, and that's what I wanted to get back to. So I spent a year making my own appearances, doing community events, doing red carpets and banquets and things, and doing Filipino media and stuff like that. Doing interviews, collaborating. Like I would go on stage and present stuff with Apple the App from Black Eyed Peas. I trained with Manny Pacquiao and did all this different stuff, and worked with some influencer groups that like to do like community events for like the NBA or the NFL. So like when you go to like a Golden State Warriors game and they have Filipino Heritage Day, and it's like they have a special Warriors jersey with the Filipino sun and food vendors and charities outside, and then they promote it around a Filipino or an Asian player. These
Mm.
groups were like, okay, we'll work with you and we would love to do that for WWE. So I put all this together in a big package and brought it back to Vince. And I said, and Survivor Series. So I met with him in February. I spent the year, and then at Survivor Series week, somewhere around then, knocked on his door again and said, "This is how you can use me better." And I showed him all that. And he said, "Great. We need to get you on a different show then." So I think it was Raw that we were aiming to. And he said, and Vince's way is creative is the horse that pulls the carriage. So he said, "We got to think of creative for you, and then we do all this stuff with it." And I said, "Great." So I started writing pitches and making pitches, and I wrote for everybody. I mean, I wrote stories for me and Bobby Lashley, me and Finn, me and Roman, me and Miz, me and Jinder, me and Elias, me and Gargano, me and anybody on any show, any roster, I wrote stories for. Um, and none of them were a good fit. All these guys were doing other stories that they wanted to go with instead. And in some cases, I started to get a little sour because they would take my story and then use it for somebody else. The Leo Rush thing with Finn and Bobby Lashley, like that was something I wrote, and then they put Ricochet in that spot instead.
Mm.
Um, which is fine. I don't have any problem with the guys. They all need pushes, so I'm
Sure.
glad that they got that. So that I have no qualms with that. But it started to get frustrating because pitches weren't being turned in, or they're just being stolen, or they just weren't a good fit. So eventually, yeah, they just the office was like, hey, Vince has a lot of respect for what you're trying to do, but he doesn't want you to be unhappy. And I had already expressed that if we can't make it work, I want to go back to Mexico, go back to Japan, and do some other stuff because I'm not happy here, and I don't want to waste his time and money. So they said, he doesn't know what to do with you right now. So if you want to spread your wings, go and do your thing, and then that's it. And that's that was it. So
Yeah. And how was it left with it? Was it good terms? Was it say, let's try and talk it
yeah,
somewhere down the
yeah,
road or
yeah. There's been once or twice that we've touched base, and continue to let's check back in the future sort of thing.